Are you ready, Chad? Okay, here we go. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Give me a second here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this first day of May 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 7 entitled Knowledge of the Absolute, text 13 on page 317. Tribhir Guna Mayar Bhavair Ebhi Sarvam Idam Jagat Mohitam Nabijanati Mamebhyah Padamavyayam Tribhir Gunamaya Bhavair Ebhik Sarvamidam Jagat Mohitang Nabijanati Mamebhyak Padamavyayam Tribhir Gunamaya Bhavair Ebhik Sarvamidam Jagat Mohitang Nabijanati Mamebhyak Padamavyayam Tribhir Gunamaya Bhavair Ebhik Sarvamidam Jagat Mohitang Nabijanati Mamebhyak Padamavyayam. Go ahead, Ebhik. Tribhir Gunamaya Bhavair Ebhik Sarvamidam Jagat Mohitang Nabijanati Mamebhyak Padamavyayam. Chad, go ahead. Tribhir Gunamaya Bhavair Ebhik Sarvamidam Jagat Mohitang Nabijanati Mamebhyak Padamavyayam. Prabhu, you want to try? No. Okay, anyone online? I guess Tapas is not here anymore. All right. Word by words. 3b, 3. Gunamayai, consisting of the gunas. Bhavai, by these states of being. Abhi, all these. Sarvam, whole. Idam, this. Jagat, universe. Mohitam, deluded. Na abhijanati, does not know. Mam, me. Abhyak, above these. Param, the supreme. Abhyayam, inexhaustible. Translation. Lord Shri Krishna says to Arjuna, deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. Purport. The whole world is enchanted by the three modes of material nature. Those who are bewildered by these three modes cannot understand that transcendental to this material nature is the Supreme Lord Krishna. Every living entity under the influence of material nature has a particular type of body and a particular type of psychological and biological activities accordingly. There are 4 classes of men functioning in the 3 material modes of nature. Those who are purely in the mode of goodness are called brāhmaṇas. Those who are purely in the mode of passion are called kshatriyas. Those who are in the modes of both passion and ignorance are called vaishyas. And those who are completely in ignorance are called shudras. And those who are less than that are animals or animal life. However, these designations are not permanent. I may be either a Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or whatever. In any case, this life is temporary. But although life is temporary and we do not know what we are going to be in the next life, by the spell of this illusory energy we consider ourselves in terms of this bodily conception of life. And we thus think that we are American, Indian, Russian, or Brahmin, Hindu, Muslim, etc. And if we become entangled with the modes of material nature, then we forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is behind all these modes. So Lord Kṛṣṇa says that living entities deluded by these 3 modes of nature do not understand that behind the material background is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are many different kinds of living entities, human beings, demigods, animals, etc. And each and every one of them is under the influence of material nature. And all of them have forgotten the transcendent personality of Godhead. Those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance, and even those who are in the mode of goodness, cannot go beyond the impersonal Brahman conception of the absolute truth. They are bewildered before the Supreme Lord in His personal feature, which possesses all beauty, opulence, knowledge, strength, fame, and renunciation. When even those who are in goodness cannot understand, what hope is there for those in passion and ignorance? Krishna consciousness is transcendental to all these three modes of material nature, and those who are truly established in Krishna consciousness are actually liberated. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara. So, where have we come in this chapter? Krishna promises at the beginning, Maya Sakta Manapata Yogam Yujjan Vanashya, that now, O Arjun, you listen to what I'm teaching you. Can you put the book onto the stand? Because, yeah, we don't like to put also that little sheet. Yeah, because this, yeah, that's holy and that's where we sit. So, thank you. So, just to go back to the last chapter is about Ashtanga Yoga. It's also about fixing one's mind on the Supreme, basically as the super soul in the heart. And they're very technical and very difficult. Basically, you have to go to a secluded place, you have to sit a certain way, you have to practice the breathing, it's all these things. So, if you remember, Arjun said, I can't do it. It's just impossible. Because it's all like controlling the mind, your own mind. And Arjun says, the mind is like controlling the wind. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balabhadradham. So chanchalam means very flickering, going here and there. We can now observe our own minds, how it works. And it's also very strong and also very obstinate. You know, pramati balabhadradham. Tanmanye, how's it get? I forget, Vaya Ivasa Duskaram. Vaya is the wind. Trying to control the air is like trying to control the wind. So he pleads inability, and then Krishna encourages him. So yes, it's difficult, but you can do it with practice. And Arjuna says, okay, but what if I fail? Then I've quit my day job as a Kshatriya, and I went to the forest, and I failed there, so I lost both. And so anyway, that comes out, finally Krishna says, okay, the best yogi of all, who's one is always thinking of me within the heart, with great transcendental faith, you know. And so that's Arjuna, he's big relief. But for all the rest of us, he continues at the beginning of this chapter, and the first words are Maya Sakta Mana, how we can attach the mind to Krishna. It's one thing to wrestle the mind, you know, so we can think of the white light, or we can think of Om, or some yantra on the wall or something, you know. But what if you know? Is it so hard to think of someone who's the most beautiful, the most attractive, the most friendly? In other words, our eternal master. In other words, that's what Krishna means. The very word Krishna means all attractive. So how hard can it be to think of something all attractive? Well, it's not easy because we've developed attractions for all varieties of things in this world, and they're in our minds. And so as soon as we let the mind go, immediately it'll go to some, you know, whatever that's most attractive. So training is involved, and knowledge is involved, and faith is involved, because this is completely beyond our ken, so to speak. Our knowledge, everybody's knowledge in this material world, is colored by these three modes of nature. And we don't really grow up knowing what they're called, but we're very familiar with how they act, actually. I think I mentioned this last night. The tendency to just postpone, you know, things, and to let things go, and to sleep in, and not be very excited, you know, to work very hard to be a success in this world. That's the mode of ignorance. And we know that sometimes that may take us over, you know, after working very hard and, you know, and maybe failing at something, just that's enough, I don't care anymore, you know. So that's the mode of ignorance. The mode of passion is when you're fully engaged in trying to enjoy the senses and the mind, or get some money so you can enjoy. That's also very much part of the mode of passion. You're really into enjoying on the material platform. And the mode of goodness, you're a little more reflective. You know, you're interested in philosophy, what's the meaning of life, and things like that. So the mode of goodness is kind of a gateway to pure goodness, transcendental understanding. And that's why, like in an ashram like this, that's a very important principle. In keeping it clean, everyone regulated, nobody's, listen to rock music in his bunk, no, you don't do that. and you try to help each other to stay on the mode of goodness. Supposed to. That's the whole idea. But in the ashram, you have, if you're all working together, you can help each other in spiritual life. Important. So, now the three modes are critical to understanding this material nature, because it's not just we are in the modes. Everything is governed by these modes, And so the Bhagavad Gita is the summary here, but the next verse is really key. It's very often quoted. And so I think we should move on to that, and we'll understand more what Krishna is talking about here. Daiviyesha gunamahi mama maya duratya mameviye papadyante maya metang tarantite. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome. I think we fixed that. I finally prevailed on the look at the word by word meanings. Very difficult to overcome, you see? And when you say something is difficult to overcome, you can do it if you try, right? It's difficult to get into Harvard, but if you really work at it, you can do it, right? But no matter how hard you try on your own, you can't overcome these modes of nature. So it's kind of impossible to overcome, but at least let's say very difficult. So I'll add that in there. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So this is a key understanding, that Krishna is how we can cross over these modes. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has innumerable energies, and all these energies are divine. Although the living entities are part of his energies and are therefore divine, due to contact with the material energy, their original superior power is covered. Being thus covered by material energy, one cannot possibly overcome its influence on one's own. As previously stated, both the material and spiritual natures, or energies, being emanations from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are eternal. The living entities belong to the eternal superior nature of the Lord, but due to contamination by the inferior nature, matter, their illusion is also eternal, virtually eternal. Probably something from time immemorial. We've been in this situation. The conditioned soul is therefore called Nitya Baddha, or eternally conditioned. No one can trace out the history of his becoming conditioned at a certain date in material history, but there is a time. There's a point. Barbara was insistent on this. We haven't been here eternally, although we call it eternally conditioned. It's so just to stop for a minute. I think we discussed the length of Brahma's day, or Brahma's life. I won't ask you what it is, but I'll tell you, because you have to calculate. 311 trillion and 40 billion years. That's the length of our Brahma's life. This is the Brahma with the smallest number of heads. There's other Brahmas with other heads, longer lifetimes. It's inconceivable. But there's still a beginning and an end of his life. You see, he's not immortal, as he told Hiranyakashipu in no uncertain terms. So this has been going on. Brahma creating the universe, and the living entities getting injected by Mahavishnu, and then gradually taking up all their previous stations in different species of life, and then there's many annihilations also. I think when Brahma sleeps at the end of his day, there's also an annihilation. It's not that the universe just goes on without him, and we all merge into the body of Garbhodesha Vishnu. We come out afterward, I mean, he sleeps for 12 hours, which is like, what, more than 4 billion years. So we have a good rest, you know. So this is going on, you know, and when Brahma creates, these modes of nature are really what are also part of the raw material for creation. Let's put it that way. So, but we forget all this. You know, we're so wrapped up in our present life, even if we're not human beings. You know, the dogs, they don't know that they were once not dogs, and they don't know they once not be dogs, and they don't even know they're going to die. It's just whatever it is, you know. There's my master, okay, good, you know. And eat over here, there's some female dog, okay. You know, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, that's the general thing with animals. The consciousness is very much covered. The whole idea is that as spirit souls, we're fully conscious, Satchidananda. But because we're minute, we can be covered by matter, and that's our conditioned state. And according to how we interact with the modes, and of course as lower beings, we automatically come up, you know, to the human platform. But in the human platform, in the human body, we have more intelligence. And so if we get in touch with the proper source of knowledge, we can act in a certain way in relation to this material world that we gradually, it may take us several lifetimes, we can get free of it, free of the bond, of the covering. We become uncovered. It's all a process of uncovering. That's what Lord Chaitanya said in his Shikshastika, Cheto dharpana marjanam papa mahada vagni nirvapanam. That very first line is full of meaning. Cheto is our consciousness. Dharpana is a mirror. Dharpana, Cheto dharpana marjanam. Dharpana is cleansing, right? Yeah, Dharpana is a mirror and marjanam is cleansing. Thank you. Forgive me. I can always remember Dharpana because Dharpa means vanity, pride. And where do you get more vanity if you're always looking in the mirror? Right? That's the reason. The Sanskrit language is great. So he's talking about, now what is he talking about? The power of Sankirtan, of chanting the holy name together powerfully. And you know, you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's so many incredible descriptions of Sankirtan. Of the devotees, you know, ecstatically dancing for hours and hours and being oblivious to the passage of time, and you know, in such ecstasy before Jagannath or just in Srivas Angan. Srivas is his home, and that is the revolution. That's the means of this age. Surpass all of this Ashtanga yoga. Don't even worry about it. It's not needed. In this way, there's something called Taurya Trikena. Taurya Trikena means 3 processes of singing, dancing, and playing musical instruments. Now, we can see in the modern age how they can be a real force for Maya, right? Think of all the rock concerts and the raves and all of this thing, right? Depending on the consciousness of who's doing it, who's playing, then it can be a tremendous force for burying you in the modes of nature. But when those things are used for glorifying the Lord and dancing and chanting the holy name, it becomes a very powerful force for transcendence. And that's the revolution of this age. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam kalo nasteva, nasteva, nasteva gataranyata. Lord Chaitanya said his spiritual master Ishwar Puri taught him this verse as the essence for the age. You know, in this, if you want to achieve the supreme goal of life in this age when dissension and chaos abound, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way that can ever be found but to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name with a stout-hearted vow, and to pray, O Lord Kṛṣṇa, O friend of the poor, let my head ever unto your lotus feet bow. Now I added a few concepts in there to make the poem come out even. But the basic idea is that when they repeat something, especially 3 times, really evidence. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam. Eva Kevalam means it's the only way, chanting the holy name. So the Lord Chaitanya, that's Krishna himself, has given this system. And the first thing that has, it's a cleansing process. We already have all of this realization, we have love of God within us, but we've lost touch with it. Life after life is buried in there. But this process of bhakti centered on chanting puts us in touch with that. That's why even if you're not completely realized, there's a lot of instances, like especially festivals, like Ratha Yatra. Have you ever been to the LA Ratha Yatra? Try to go this year. First Sunday in August, Everyone gathers on the beach there in Venice Beach, in LA. And the 3 big carts and 3 wonderful big deities. They're painted, I know because I used to live there, they're painted just in the same way that the deities in Puri are painted. and very impressive, wonderful. So a big procession, it takes an hour, hour and a half, everyone's chanting. And you get in there, it's all these, there's a stage and there's more kirtan, there's all kinds of things going on, So and what are you doing? You're glorifying the Lord in all kinds of ways, especially by chanting. And this natural happiness comes out. So it's there. We all have it. And that's very encouraging. We already have it. We just have to discover it, uncover it. So here in this verse, Krishna is saying these three modes of nature are my energy. They're divine. Mama Maya, they're mine. But they're very difficult to overcome. Impossible on your own. You see, on your own. But those who surrender unto me can easily cross beyond it. So now the question is, what about that surrender? What's preventing us from surrender? Our habituation in this false ego, this false sense of self, that we are the controllers, we are the masters, we can enjoy, our senses and our mind like that, separate from Krishna. That's the fallacy, because as soon as we do that, we're assuring that we stay in the trap of this material energy. See, Maya, she has the thankless task to keep her name is Durga. Durga means a prison. Durga, can't go. That's what Durga means. It's practically like English. Durga, can't go. So, what are the bars? How does she keep us bound? Not by any, steel shackles, but the bonds are really like these ropes. They're called knots in the heart. The material desires. As soon as you engage in sense gratification, you not only get a little fillip of bliss, happiness, of pleasure, but you plant the desire seed to do it again. That's what addiction is all about. And when it's really some physical substance, or like cigarette smoke or something, then it gets into your nervous system, your cells, and it's very difficult to give it up. So we're actually all addicts, not so obviously that we need, that you can go to AA or something. But whatever we're trying to enjoy here, we want to keep doing it. And we can't, because of the time factor, the material energy. And so we become frustrated, but that desire is there, it takes us to another body, takes us to another body. That's the science of transmigration. And the preliminary goal of any yoga is to get free of this bondage of birth and death, samsara chakra. And next time I give the Sunday feast, I'm going to give us a talk on different boats in the Bhagavatam to take us across. So I'll share with you the basic outline of that, because it's very pertinent. So Krishna speaks, I think it's in the 11th canto, or maybe the Bhagavad Gita, I forget. But he says, Nirdehamadhyam sulabham sudurlabham plabam sukalpam gunakarna dharam mayanukulyena nabhasviteritam puman bhavabdim nataretsa atmaha. So Nira is short for Nara, which means human being. Deh is the body. The human body, Adyam means is very qualified, is filled with all kinds of facilities, and it is like a very nice boat to cross over the ocean of birth and death. Nirdeyam Adyam, Sulabham Sudurlabham. Now this is a play on words, because those are opposite words. Come on in. Hare Krishna. Here's your side over here. Oh, Krishna. You can go over here. We're on page 318. So, have you been, you know about us? I can see. That's right. Welcome. You may even know this verse. Nirdehamadyam sulabham sudurlabham. I'm explaining this verse about the human body as a boat to cross over the ocean of birth and death, okay? So Krishna is saying sulabham sudurlabham. Now those are opposite words, meaning. Sulabham means easy to get, and sudurlabham means very difficult to get. So how is it both? So sulabham, in this case, means you automatically get it. Each soul eventually comes to the human form. You see? But sudurlabham, it's rare. There's only 8 million, there's only 8 billion of us here, on this planet. And how many mosquitoes are there? Every living thing is a soul in there. So it's rare that we are in the human form of life, and we should know that we've been coming up these species, and we don't know how many times we've gone around, you know. So we shouldn't go down again. We want to go, at least get another human body to continue and eventually go back home, back to Godhead. So so Krishna is encouraging, okay, the human form of life is very, how should I say, facilitated, with great facility, a boat for crossing over this ocean of birth and death. Nirdeham adyam sulabam plabam, plabam means boat. Sukalpam, very nicely constructed. And so we need a captain of the ship. Guru Karna Dharam. The qualified spiritual master is the captain of the ship that can guide us how we can ply across the ocean. But we need favorable winds. It's a sailboat, no motors. Where do winds come from? Krishna is speaking. My words are the favorable winds that can push this boat across the ocean. So with all this facility, the human form of life, which is full of all kinds of facilities, especially the intelligence, and the qualified guru or the captain, and the favorable winds, then the last line says, Puman, that person, that human being, Bhavabdim. Bhavabdim means the ocean of Bhava. Now this word Bhava is often used to mean birth, old age, disease, and death. It basically means change. It's always changing. And what's changing? Oh, we're born and we get older and eventually get disease and we die. So the Bhavabdi, Abdi is an ocean. So the ocean of birth and death. Puman Bhavabdi Nataret, that human being who does not use these facilities for crossing that ocean and attaining the, whatever you want to call it, paradise, you know, beyond no more birth and death and ultimate bliss, eternal life and knowledge, is sa'atmaha, committing suicide, spiritual suicide. In other words, it's a tragic waste. So that's the first one. It's very pertinent to this verse because he says one has to surrender unto Krishna. So and if one does so, then one can cross over. So then there's another boat. This one is even more famous. This is Krishna's lotus feet are like a boat too. Samashitaye padapallava plavam. The word plava again, it's a boat. Padapallava plavam mahatpadam punyasho marare pavambudi vatsapadam parampadam padam padam yadvipadam natesham. You have to be deaf not to hear the poetry in that one. So Mashrita means fully taking shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, or Murari, the enemy of the Muradir. So Mashrita ye, those who take full shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, which are Mahatpadam, has two meanings. It means that's where all the entire universe rests, on Krishna, the Mahatattva. Or it's where all the Mahatmas stay, at the lotus feet of Krishna. Punya Yasha, that's one of the names of Krishna, means simply by glorifying him you get piety. You become pious just by glorification. You see? That's the main thing. Murari, the enemy of the Muradir Krishna. Then what's the result? That whole ocean, and this is kind of paradoxical. You got the boat, okay, I'm on the lotus feet. But it says Bhavambudir, again this word Bhava, the ocean of birth and death. Bhavambudir, Vatsapadam, that ocean shrinks down to the water that could be contained in not a hoofprint of a cow, but the hoofprint of a calf. In other words, so now you don't need a boat, you just cross over. But in other words, it's very easy. If you take shelter of Krishna and you become a servant, then you're already across. You're already beyond the modes of nature, if you do that. So he goes on, he finishes the verse. Parampadam, they've gone to the supreme abode. Parampadam, situation. Padam means at every step. Padam yad vibadam natesham. Not for them is this place where at every step there are so many dangers at every step. Where you can easily lose this human form of life. And if you haven't made any progress in Krishna consciousness, oh boy, here we go down dog's life, you know. So this is as there are hundreds of statements like this in the Shastra, to make us feel the urgency, to really take this process seriously, become determined that we're going to make progress. Any little progress is our eternal asset. This is what's so wonderful about Krishna consciousness. Just attending one of my, bumbling Bhagavad Gita classes, which is successful if it is at all, because I'm reading Prabhupada's words, Krishna's words. But even that, you're not going to be, none of us here in this room will be animals in our next life. We'll be human beings. And we'll come to class again.
we'll come, and we may make 10% and we'll start at 11%. Right? So nothing is lost. Neha vikramanasosti pratyavayo navidyate swopamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bayat. Second chapter, very encouraging verse. He says, Na iha abhikrama, not in this endeavor, Krishna consciousness, is there nasha, is there any destruction? Whatever assets you get, they're eternal. Now, pratyavayo navidyate, and there's no diminution. In other words, it's what Prabhupada says, once you start, you're hooked. You might as well surrender, because you're going to be, yeah, don't stick, don't put in your heels, just go to the end. So nehabhigana pratyavayo swalpam, even a little bit, not a little bit, but a very little bit. Suopam means very, very small amount of advancement. In this dharma, trayate mahato bayat. Now, there's another translation that can protect one from, as it says, from the most dangerous type of fear. But whenever Prabhupada quoted this verse and explained it, he always said it protects one from the greatest danger. So instead of the most dangerous type of fear, I think it should be the most fearsome type of danger, which I think will do it, which is what its synonyms say. Bayat can mean both fear and danger, the word bayat. So what is that greatest danger? Our fellow Chad knows. What's the greatest danger?
Losing this human life.
Yes. To waste this human life, that we go down, become the dogs, You're walking the dog in this life, the dog will walk you in the next life. He comes up, you go down. We've been going round and around, So therefore, it protects you. You will, even if you do just, you come to one class, say, well, that was pretty boring. Well, too bad. You heard Hare Krishna, you heard Krishna's words. Next life, you'll come to class again. So that's. So now back to this verse. Here, Krishna is talking about how we can actually get out of this material world. The Daiviyesha Gunamayi. So these three modes of nature is part of my arrangement in this world, how it's running, and it's divine because it's connected to me. This is why we can. You remember in the previous verses in this chapter? Oh, I say, Rasoham apsakonteya. Krishna says, I am the taste of water. I am the light of the sun and the moon. I am the ability of man. I am the fragrance of the earth. I am the sound of ether. He goes through all the senses. In other words, how do we perceive the sound? There's something vibrating out there. That was created by Krishna. That's his energy. And how did we get these ears? That's part of his energy. So how does the experience of sound separate from him? It's also, this is why I am that. I am the taste of water, you see? So the idea is that when we experience these things, which we do, many of them every day, we can say, oh, yeah, I remember that verse in the Bhagavad Gita. I just tasted water, and now I'm reminded of Krishna, how kind Krishna is to give us this water, So this is a way we can very easily start to become Krishna conscious. And then it naturally evolves into where we're using those things in Krishna's service. Then we really start to get connected to Krishna. Is that, oh, this water, this money that I just made, this is, Krishna's energy. So let me give a portion of it for the temple. Everything belongs to Krishna. Right? Then all the work that we expended to make that money becomes devotional service. And this is karma yoga, which is an integral part of bhakti yoga, But it all depends on the consciousness. It becomes bhakti when you're doing that work in full consciousness of Krishna, that he's giving the facility and he should be the enjoyer, and you're doing it out of love and affection for Krishna. Then that's bhakti. Proper. But here, this basic point, as I mentioned in some other classes, that the original motivation, the thing that can really get us moving is to understand, oh boy, this material world is not a nice place, and there's another world. I believe it. Is Srila Prabhupada and the whole parampara and all the great acharyas and the books are explaining us, yes. I quoted Brahma Samhita, I think, Shriya Kanta, Padma Padusha. This is the verse described the spiritual world. In that world, Krishna's there, and all these gopis and goddesses of fortune. Padma Padusha, Kalpatadavo Dhuma. All the trees, they're desire trees. You can get perfectly ripe fruits of any kind from any tree at any time, because they're fully conscious. They know that you're going to offer that fruit to Krishna, so this is part of their service, you see. So it's all, the land isn't just land, it's Chintamani gems, the water is nectar. All the talking is singing in tune. No offense. And sorry. And one can always hear the flute in the distance, you know. And then it goes on, and everything is glowing with this Chidananda Jyoti, which is the spiritual bliss energy, and which you can directly taste, you know. And there's all these cows, and they're so blissful that there's milk everywhere, they're spilling milk. And then this key phrase here, there's no time, there's no passage of time. It's all the eternal present. Nobody gets old, you know, nothing, there's no boring, you know, everything is fresh and new, everything. And that only a few pure souls in this world know about that, Goloka Vrindavan. So that's in the Brahma Samhita. So we get a desire, we have faith, yes, this exists, this is my real home, what do I do to try to get there? And then we're eager to take up the process and learn more about it. This is due to association. How do you get faith? By associating with the faithful. And this was Prabhupada's great gift. There were hardly any books when he came. He had those 3 books that he printed in India, you know, devotees were reading them like anything. But there was Prabhupada. And he was totally convinced, and you could see in his character and everything he did, there was this aura of Krishna, you know, God consciousness, obviously. And he wasn't just keeping it to himself, he would give it out. Yeah, chant, this is the means of doing it. Chant Hare Krishna. The devotees would chant, they would feel something. And they said, Prabhupada, can we make a pamphlet, because this is the 60s, stay high forever? Because everyone's getting high out there, you know. He said, yes, make that pamphlet. So they had stay high forever. Not with drugs, but with the holy name, you know. So that's what we're setting. This is a very important verse. How can we cross beyond it? And the gunas, Prabhupada mentions here, does he mention in this purport? Maybe next purport. How the guna can mean rope also. That's another meaning of the word guna. And we're tightly bound up by the modes of nature in our conditioned state. You see? We're seeing everything, you know, through the lens of how can I enjoy it, you know? And if I can't, well, how, you know, where can I go to try, you know? So that's illusion. So that's Maya binds us with these things, and the ropes in the heart, the knots in the heart. You know how to cut those knots. So the Bhagavatam is filled with verses. It's very often how you can cut those knots. Prabhupada chant. This is from the 4 Kumaras' instruction to Maharaj Prithu. I think it's Prithu. Yeah. And near the end, he has this verse. And Prabhupada, I heard this lecture, he's chanting this verse again and again, just taking the first line. Yat pada pankaja pralasha vilasa bhaktya karmasha yangutitam udgutayanti santa tadvanda riktamatayo yatayopi ruddha sroto ganastamadanam bhajavasudevam. That last phrase is very easy to understand. It's an imperative. Therefore, worship Vasudeva. Bhaja Vasudeva. So we begin Yat Pada Pankaja, the lotus feet. Vasudeva, lotus feet. Pada Pankaja Pralasha, the toes, which are like the leaves of the lotuses, you know, the petals of the lotus. Pralasha Vilasa Bhaktya. So the devotees, they're always enjoying this vilas, this spiritual pleasure from serving the lotus feet of Krishna. Pada Pankaja Vilasa Vilasa Bhaktya, with great love and devotion. And what's the result? One of the results, Yat Vilasa Vilasa Karmashayam Gratitam Udgratayanti Santa. Santa is the same word. We were sitting here at Santa Rosa, San Diego. It's a word for saint, for devotee. So the santas, the devotees, are doing that, and in this way, by that pleasure of serving the lotus feet, the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord, Karmashaya. And Karmashaya means the aspiration, the great desire for karmic activity, for sense gratification. They're like gratitam. The gratitam is the knots in the heart. The gratitam udgutayanti. They're untied or they're cut by the process of serving the lotus feet and experiencing that pleasure. Because after all, it's all pleasure. You're attached to something material because it gave you some pleasure sometime, you know, and that's a desire seed in your heart or not in your heart tying to that thing. We got to cut those and attach the heart to Krishna. So that comes from service, from the service of the lotus feet. But others whose minds, they may be the yogis and the speculators and the mayavadis, whose minds are empty of bhakti, rikta matayo, yatayo, even though striving very hard to get out of this material world, they can't do it. They can't get it. Yatayo yapayo viruddha sroto ganastamadhanam bhajavasadevam. They eventually fall and they get attached to something, open hospitals or something. But maybe mode of goodness, but still in the material world. Therefore, bhajavasadevam. Worship Krishna, worship Vasudeva. And purports are also wonderful here. So it's all the same theme, that this world is made of the three modes of material nature. It's Krishna's world. He's constructed it here for us who want to try to compete with him. And it's run by Maya Devi, Durga, and her job is to make it, difficult for us to get out. We have to be determined to give up our rebellious ways and again return to Krishna's lotus feet. And so that's what she's doing. Therefore, those who surrender unto me can easily cross beyond it. And therefore we should do it. We should surrender to Krishna. Okay, let's do one more. This next one is probably even more quoted. Who doesn't surrender? Namam dushkritano mudha papadyante naradamaha mahaya paridita jnana asudam bhavamashtrataha. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are the lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Purport: it is said in the Bhagavad Gita that simply by surrendering oneself unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality, Krishna, one can surmount the stringent laws of material nature. So it said it in the last verse. At this point, a question arises: how is it that educated philosophers, scientists, businessmen, administrators, and all the leaders of ordinary men do not surrender to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, the all-powerful personality of Godhead? Mukti, or liberation from the laws of material nature, is sought by the leaders of mankind in different ways, and with great plans and perseverance for a great many years and births. But if that liberation is possible by simply surrendering unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then why don't these intelligent and hard-working leaders adopt this simple method? The Gita answers this question very frankly. Those really learned leaders of society like Brahma, Shiva, Kapila, the Kumaras, Manu, Vyas, Devala, Asita, Janaka, Prahlad, Bali, and later on Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Sri Chaitanya, and many others, who are faithful philosophers, politicians, educators, scientists, etc., do surrender to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality, the all-powerful authority. Those who are not actually philosophers, scientists, educators, administrators, etc., but who pose themselves as such for material gain, do not accept the plan or path of the Supreme Lord. They have no idea of God. They simply manufacture their own worldly plans and consequently complicate the problems of material existence in their vain attempts to solve them. Because material energy, or nature, is so powerful, it can resist the unauthorized plans of the atheists and baffle the knowledge of the planning commissions. The atheistic plan makers are described herein by the word dushkritina, or miscreants. Kriti means one who has performed meritorious work. The atheist plan maker is sometimes very intelligent and meritorious also, because any gigantic plan, good or bad, must take intelligence to execute. But because the atheist's brain is improperly utilized in opposing the plan of the Supreme Lord, the atheistic plan maker is called dushkriti, which indicates that his intelligence and efforts are misdirected. In the Gita, it is clearly mentioned that material energy works fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord. It has no independent authority. It works as the shadow moves, in accordance with the movements of the object. But still, material energy is very powerful, and the atheist, due to his godless temperament, cannot know how it works, nor can he know the plan of the Supreme Lord. Under illusion and the modes of passion and ignorance, all his plans are baffled, as in the case of Hiranyakashipu and Ravana, that we're reading in the morning about Hiranyakashipu. Definitely baffled, torn apart. Ravana, whose plans were smashed to dust, although they were both materially learned as scientists, philosophers, administrators, and educators. These dushkritinas, or miscreants, are of four different patterns, as outlined below. 1. The mudas are those who are grossly foolish, like hard-working beasts of burden. They want to enjoy the fruits of their labor by themselves, and so do not want to part with them for the Supreme. The typical example of the beast of burden is the ass, the donkey, jackass. This humble beast is made to work very hard by his master. The ass does not really know for whom he works so hard day and night. He remains satisfied by filling his stomach with a bundle of grass, sleeping for a while under fear of being beaten by his master, and satisfying his sex appetite at the risk of being repeatedly kicked by the opposite party. The ass sings poetry and philosophy sometimes, but this braying sound only disturbs others. This is the position of the foolish, fruitive worker who does not know for whom he should work. He does not know that karma or action is meant for yajna, sacrifice. Most often those who work very hard day and night to clear the burden of self-created duties, this is a famous phrase, clear the burden of self-created duties, say that they have no time to hear of the immortality of the living being. To such mudhas, material gains which are destructible are life's all in all, despite the fact that the mudhas enjoy only a very small fraction of the fruit of labor. Sometimes they spend sleepless days and nights for fruit of gain, and although they may have ulcers or indigestion, they are satisfied with practically no food. They are simply absorbed in working hard day and night for the benefit of illusory masters. Boy, we're going to have to come back to this purport. Ignorant of their real master, the foolish workers waste their valuable time serving mammon. Unfortunately, they never surrender to the Supreme Master of all masters, nor do they take time to hear of him from the proper sources. The swine who eat the night soil do not care to accept sweetmeats made of sugar and ghee. Similarly, the foolish worker will untiringly continue to hear of the sense-enjoyable tidings of the flickering mundane world, but will have very little time to hear about the eternal living force that moves the material world. 2. So that was all. Then the next is Buddhas. And so how do we get to 2? Oh, I get there's 4 kinds of descriptors. The Buddhas. And now 2, another class of Dushkriti or miscreant is called the Naradhama, or the lowest of mankind. Nara means human being, Adama means lowest. Out of the 8,400,000 different species of living beings, there are 400,000 human species. Out of these, there are numerous lower forms of human life that are mostly uncivilized. The civilized human beings are those who have regulative principles of social, political, and religious life. Those who are socially and politically developed, but who have no religious principles, must be considered Naradamas. Nor is religion without God religion, because the purpose of following religious principles is to know the Supreme Truth and man's relation with Him. In the Gita, the personality of Godhead clearly states that there is no authority above Him, and that He is the Supreme Truth. The civilized form of human life is meant for man's reviving the lost consciousness of his eternal relation with the Supreme Truth, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who is all-powerful. Whoever loses this chance is classified as a Naradhama. We get information from revealed scriptures that when the baby is in the mother's womb, an extremely uncomfortable situation, he prays to God for deliverance and promises to worship Him alone as soon as he gets out. To pray to God when he is in difficulty is a natural instinct in every living being, because he is eternally related with God. But after his deliverance, or after he's delivered, after his birth, the child forgets the difficulties of birth and forgets his deliverer also, being influenced by Maya, the illusory energy. It is the duty of the guardians of children to revive the divine consciousness dormant in them. The 10 processes of reformatory ceremonies, as enjoined in the Manusmriti, which is the guide to religious principles, are meant for reviving God consciousness in the system of Varnashram. However, no process is strictly followed now in any part of the world, and therefore 99.9% of the population is Naradama. So we're not going to be able to finish this purport. We'll resume with it on Monday. I think we'll probably start from the beginning. It's so important. But I'd like to just share one little poem for you in this theme. And this is based on a famous verse by Lord Rishabdev, 5th canto, 5th chapter, text 1. Prabhupada gave many lectures on this verse. I won't give you the verse, but I'll give you my little takeoff on the verse. Exactly according to this purport. Don't waste this precious human life, dear friend, by working hard for hoggish happiness. Through bhakti yoga, worldly life transcend and learn to taste divine love's endless bliss. That's my last word tonight. Thank you for listening, locally and remotely. I know you're out there. And we'll now have a kirtan. You're all invited to stay. And I think there should be some prasadam afterward, for free. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.